Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, that was good, wasn't it?
Hello, everyone out there. Welcome to the live stream this evening. So I can see we've already got about 12 people watching already. It's brilliant. We've got Ben, we've got Jamie, we've got Julie, we've got Kim. So those are the people that I think have commented in the chat already. And I'm sure there's some others of you as well. So do let us know if you're watching. And as always with these live streams, feel free to ask questions. We're going to have a bit of a chat first, myself and Dan, give you an update on what happened in our 50-miler race that we did on Saturday. Both of us doing our first 50-milers. And after we've had gone through that and given you that recap, we'll answer your questions. And we just keep this going and nice and relaxed. We've got Rob there. We've got Chris, who also took part in the North Downs Way 50. So well done to him. Yes. Yeah, Ben, what 50-miler? Short memory, eh? It was an experience. I think we can both say that for sure. So, and guys, if you're not familiar with Dan, it's Dan Runs. As you can see on the screen there, go and check his channel out. Go and subscribe to him if you aren't already, and definitely go and watch his video of the North Downs Way 50, which is a documentary style of his journey. It's really very good, very well put together, and you will see similar to mine. You will see somebody doing their first 50-miler, not everything going 100% according to plan, but getting there in the end. That's a bit of a spoiler, but there you go. So Dan, first thing I thought, whilst we've still got people joining, I thought I'd ask you the key question, which is, how are the legs?
How are the legs? Well, it's an interesting one because I think the mix of running and walking meant that my legs themselves weren't entirely wrecked. So by the time I got to the end of it, I didn't have too much of an issue with the legs. It was the feet afterwards that was a problem. So both big toenails were really, really sensitive to touch the following day. The right subsided now, the left is still causing me some problems. Not black, not bruised, just really quite sensitive. My knee, which if you've watched the video, I had an issue with my knee after a little slip on the mud. And that, again, was quite achy for 48 hours or so. Subsided now, feels all right. I don't plan to run on it for another at least a week yet. Just a big rest for me. But overall, legs are okay. Legs are feeling good. I was back at work on Monday, so doing a lot of walking around and just keeping them moving. So I'm pleased that I'm still mobile. But yeah, just a couple of things just to attend to, I think, over the next few days to hopefully get ourselves back to normal. How about you?
Well, yeah, I mean, probably similar, really. I mean, first couple of days, you get that, can't walk down the stairs, can't sit down, get back up from sitting, all that sort of stuff. Didn't sleep well the Saturday night. That was a real struggle. But I think with every day that goes past, the legs recover just that little bit. And yeah, gradually, slowly, they're getting back to, I can certainly walk. I'm not feeling any problem walking. I certainly wouldn't want to go out and run. I think I will. I've stayed off them in terms of any kind of rolling or stretching or anything like that. I'll probably get back into that over the weekend. I'm not planning to run next week. But what's your view in terms of when you're planning to go back to do an initial run?
Yeah, I was going to give myself 2 weeks. I just thought, if I did a marathon, it'll be a week off, and I'm in no hurry. I don't have anything necessarily planned, so I figured give myself 2 weeks and just kind of fully recover and be kind to my body, and then see where I'm at after that. Like I said, I'm in no rush. Whilst the weather has turned quite glorious today, and it's probably going to be really nice next week, and I'll be tempted to run. I just think I'd rather be cautious and be kind to myself and then run. Probably, yeah, at least another week off.
Yeah, cool. It sounds sensible. I can see we've got Michael joining us and we've got Mariella joining us as well. So thanks, guys, for joining. And what I will do is I'll go on to our first topic. So we split it up into a number of little topics or a number of questions that we're going to both answer to help recap our race, fill you guys in on what really happened. And first one is, what went well, Dan, with you?
What went well? I've just seen Mariella's comment there. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Yeah, there was certainly some pain towards the end. So what went well? I was really thrilled with my sort of hydration and nutrition. That was something that obviously leading up to it, you want to get that bit right, and you're kind of sold on the idea that that's going to be the make or break, and I certainly believe that's true. So in changing my nutrition towards the end of my training block from one gel to another, that was something that was weighing slightly on my mind, but I felt like I did a really good job of that, and I didn't really have too many issues at all. I made a mistake of taking a malt loaf, which really tempted me around about 40 miles, and that set quite heavy. But other than that, I was self-sufficient with my hydration.
Sorry,
and
what was
nutrition.
that, Dan? You had what?
Like a little malt loaf bar, little Serene malt loaf bar.
Did you get that from the aid station, or did you bring it
Yeah,
yourself from the aid station? See, I
had.
was looking forward to them. I never actually saw them there.
Did you
Obviously didn't look
not?
hard enough.
No,
Yeah.
I just, because I had a lot of sweet tastes all day, I knew that was going to be a completely different taste. And at that stage, I was walking, so I thought, well, I can have a little malt loaf, but it sat quite heavy. But other than that, hydration and nutrition went really well. In terms of what I was wearing, no issues with sort of chafing, no issues with any sort of discomfort. So I was really pleased with the clothing, which again, over a short distance, you can get away with. Over a long distance, if you get that wrong, it can be really troublesome. So overall, I think what I prepared for went well, and everything that I had planned to wear, planned to eat, that all went to plan. So I can't use that as an excuse. Sadly, would have been nice to, but no excuses from that point of view. That all sort of went quite smoothly.
That's really interesting because I'm going to give almost the same answer. My energy levels, I maintained them throughout the entire 50 miles. And that was the one thing going into it that was actually, or several things going into it, I guess I was concerned about, but that had been the one thing following my 50K training run. It was, can I maintain the energy levels throughout 50 miles? Because I was certainly lagging at the end of that 50K training run. And that's the thing I found. I just started eating early on, tailwind at every aid station. So I would drink a tailwind between aid stations. I think there was one aid gap between aid stations, which was quite small, where I didn't actually finish the whole tailwind. But every other one, I went for a whole bottle of tailwind and ate initially gels. I went off them, went on to more solid food. And the real sort of pick me up that I found was the Coca-Cola at several aid stations. The one I really needed it at was Reigate, and they'd run out. But we got through the caterer and managed to get it there, so that was okay. So yeah, energy good throughout. I think another good point of it all was, in the end, we were talking about it in the lead up for the last 2 weeks beforehand. The weather turned out pretty good considering what it could have been. It did rain. I think we both got wet at various points, but it wasn't really heavy rain. And we could have had a lot worse raining, couldn't we, really? So
and that actually, when the rain came, I see it in your video as well, that incredible rainbow. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, we got to see that. We got that on film, didn't we? So that was nice. It did shine up the countryside, really. The sun came out for much of the day behind the clouds and then in front of the clouds, and it did make it look very nice course. Of course, there was mud. You're always going to get out on the North Downs Way because it is a place, in places certainly, where it's kind of clay soil. It gets very muddy very quickly, and that was largely from the rain we'd had over the 2 weeks previous. So yeah, okay. So those are the things that went well. We might have more to talk about on this next one. What didn't go to plan?
Right. Okay. So on reflection, what didn't go to plan? With the mud, I was happy with my shoes. I had two types of shoe. the same model, but one was Gore-Tex and one wasn't. And I made the decision to go with the Gore-Tex shoe. I found for me, because those shoes have been quite worn over the training period, and I didn't wear my newer shoes, when they got caked in mud, I just found it quite difficult for grip, which led to me then slipping. And I've been in contact with some people since. They ran in different types of shoes. Quite a lot of innovative shoes out there I saw, Hoka the Speed Goat shoes, and people I think fared better with slightly better lug. So that wasn't ideal. Although, for the most part, there wasn't so much mud that I was slipping and sliding everywhere. But the portions where there were, I just felt like I didn't have the same level of comfort and confidence in the shoe.
Yeah.
So that wasn't ideal. That was the main thing that really didn't go to plan.
And
for me.
Did you slip? Is that what caused your
yeah?
Your knee?
So as I was running, it was a section. It was before Denby. So what are we talking? Maybe 19, 20 miles or so. And that long part from Eunice Corner, just before you kind of come out the crest, I'm not sure what the name of the hill is now, just before you come out there, I just sort of slipped and I tried to right it, and that just jarred my knee. And I thought, oh, I just felt a twinge in my knee. And if I'd probably gone with the slide, I might have fallen over, but I might have come off better. And yeah, from that point onwards, that was when it was frustrating, because I didn't feel like at that stage I was totally exhausted. That Denby's run, as you know, is just stunning, and I just couldn't do anything. The day that I met you at Box Hill, I think I ran down that Denby's bit at 4:30 per kilometer. Brilliant, absolutely loved it. And then that day I was like 6:50. I was nowhere. So that didn't go to plan. I did what I could to correct it. And I think for me, the course recce from Reigate onwards, it's one of those things I've discussed. Is it better that I didn't know? Should I have known? I didn't really get a chance to spend too much time on that part of the course, and I think that was maybe naive of me, because the judgment call of, well, I've got 5.5 hours left and only X amount of kilometers, when it involves hills, those kilometers are, it just goes on and on and on. So yeah, those two things, I think, course recce and ultimately maybe the shoes, I just didn't allow things to go as I wanted them to.
Yeah, and I think for me, again, we had similarities there, because my problems started even earlier than 20 miles. They were in the first 10 miles, and I remember starting off, and I was always going to be a bit worried because of what had happened 2 weeks prior on that final long run, where I had a bit of a left calf issue, and I decided to, rightly or wrongly, I decided to then just go complete. I'm not going to run between that run and race day. I'm going to give it as much opportunity to recover. Whatever's happened to that left calf, it wasn't right for a few days, and then it started going away. And it's certainly for the second week, it was fine. I couldn't feel it, but whether that was fully healed or not, I would never really know until race day. So I was always a bit apprehensive of that left calf going into the race. The funny thing was, and this could just be, paranoia type of stuff, but my right calf was kind of giving me twinges in the few days leading up to the race, and the left calf was fine, but the right calf was just, when those sort of twinges, they're not really cramp, but they feel like they could turn into a cramp if you don't move about at all.
Yeah,
I think that was probably, just the sorts of aches and stuff you get. But it was a bit like that when the race started as well. And I was worried that I could get a right calf problem during the race, similar to what I got with the left calf problem the 2 weeks prior to that. That didn't happen, and the right calf issue kind of faded away. But then I realized, as I was, doing those first 10 miles and getting sort of more distance into the legs, that everything above my knees and above, everything started aching in the legs. And aching to the point that it's like you get when you've run a really long run and you're right at the end of it, and you've gone beyond what you've done previously, and it's that sort of final 10 miles it should have been, not the first 10 miles, and I couldn't work it out why it was happening. And I thought, you know, is it going to go away? And it didn't go away. And it gradually got worse, I would say. And similar to you, the downhills were much, much harder than going uphill. So going uphill, I was walking anyway, and it wasn't a problem. As soon as you started running flat, flat was okay-ish, but not much of it is dead flat. A lot of it's undulating, the bits that you run on. So again, when you're on an undulating bit and you're going down a little bit, then fine. No, sorry, down a little bit, not fine. Up a little bit, fine. But you know, it was like almost every step I was doing, it was hurting. And across the course of that 50 miles, there was nearly 100,000 steps, according to my step counter on Garmin. So there was a lot of steps where it was really hurting, which is quite draining. But the really good thing that came out of it was when I did get to the 50K mark, I knew that the bulk of it was over at that stage. The harder stuff was over, because having done all of the course, I knew that the hardest section really is from the bottom of Box Hill to Reigate Hill. I think that's got a number of quite steep climbs in it, and a lot of kind of up and down and twisty turny bits through woods and all that sort of stuff. So I knew once we got to Reigate that, you know, there was still 20 miles to go. I was looking at the clock and I was thinking, you know, but I thought if I could walk it, I should be okay. And I kind of hooked up with another runner, and she hadn't run the course before. So she was taking advantage of the fact that I had and could sort of say what was coming up. But she was certainly sort of setting the pace for us a little bit. So she would run a bit, and then I'd try and run and keep up, and then she'd stop and walk a bit. And we just followed that whole approach really all the way through that final 20 miles, through Caterham, through Botley Hill, all the way to Knockholt. And it worked really well. Got to say, delighted to get to Knockholt in the end. It was definitely one of those feelings you think that's good. We've done it now. And you know, target was always do it inside the cutoff. We both made it fairly comfortably with inside the cutoff. So we got to be happy with that, really. Anything more, Dan, you want to add in terms of the recap section?
Yeah, I mean, actually, the other thing that didn't go to plan, and it was so frustrating, as I came out of the last aid station. So a couple of things. First of all, on my watch, I knew the distance that was left, because it said, and you'd created a GPX file. It was amazing. It was accurate. And then one of the volunteers had said to me, I was 12K to go. That's not what I had on my watch. And the difficulty then is your brain's kind of conditioned to be on the countdown. So I'm thinking I'm getting disheartened now, because it's another 2K and I already feel like things are getting tough now. So trying to override that mental situation that you find yourself in was tough, but kind of got there. She also said it was going to be flat from then on, which wasn't true, but that's fine. I think she was saying it to to keep my spirits up. The other thing that didn't go to plan was, so as I come out of the aid station, it's on camera. I get that mindset of, right, I'm going to go now. This is it. Hammer down. Just push through. Let's just try not to slip any further back. And I followed these two runners who had gone past me earlier in the day and looked really comfortable with a trekking poles, and went off course. I just followed them, which was nice downhill. I was feeling great. I was honestly the highest spirits I've been all day. And I get, first of all, a guy shouts at me. Well, I didn't know it was me at the start. I just turned around and thought, who's that shouting? Middle of the woods here, it's nice and quiet. Then he whistled and shouted Centurion. I said, yeah. And he called me back, and I called the girl in front back, and she called the girl in front of her back. That, again, you just, when these spirits are high, and it's such an emotional roller coaster that I think you're constantly on a knife edge. And when something goes slightly wrong, normally day to day, that wouldn't rock you at all. But in those moments, you just fall back off the cliff again. And it's trying to constantly write that in your mind so that you keep plodding on. And I would say, on the note of the trekking poles, I mean, I hadn't even considered it, but there seemed to be quite a number of people on the course who had them and were being quite successful using them up and downhill. I don't know how to use them, so that wouldn't have been useful unless I'd done a little bit of training beforehand in them. But I'd probably think about using them next time, possibly. Although saying that, our winner, of course, on the day, Rye, did not have them, to my knowledge, and did an absolutely scorching time. So I think it's all about technique and skill and how comfortable you are. So, but I think, that it's to be reviewed. If I was to do it again, there's a few things that I would just kind of review and maybe tweak rather than change on the whole.
I think you have to. There were people using those trekking poles. I think though it is about technique, and you have to use them quite a lot and practice with them and know how to get benefit from them. I think it's probably not something to go and do without that experience, really.
Yeah, I've just seen Chris's comment there. He's put his trekking poles are worth it, in my opinion, really helped on the hill sections. Again, it's something I'd love to just sort of know more about. I'd love to hear more about it from somebody who's got the experience using it. And just visually, what I saw, people who were competent with them, seem to be really using them effectively.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Okay. As we said before, guys, it's great to see so many people in as well. We've got like 35 people, I think, at the moment. So that's really good. So we're open to any questions that you've got, largely around the actual ultras itself that we're doing. That's what this live stream's about. So if you've got any questions, drop them in. We'll try and pick some out. I know you've probably all been chatting away in the chat whilst we've been giving our recap. So let's just give some shout outs to who we've got that I haven't already mentioned. We have got, try and go up a bit if I don't miss people out. Right, let's start there. I think that's probably it. So we've got Scott here. So Scott's already watched both our videos. Thanks very much, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that.
Got Tina. So Tina's saying that 4 days after her first ultra, she did a 5K race and only 30 seconds off her PB.
Well, I don't know if you saw Chris. For those who don't know, so Chris created a Strava group for people running the North Downs Way. And so because of that, you can follow the people who are in there. And I think it was Mark, wasn't it? Mark Pindu who's in there, who came 8th on the day. Superb run. And he had a couple of, I think, stomach issues. Otherwise, I'm absolutely certain he would have been in the top 3. But what's interesting, and you shouldn't go on social media for this reason, you flick through the day after and people are out doing 3K, 5K. And I mean, good on them really. But that was the last thing I wanted to do at that point, was go out and do anything.
We've got Rednax Gaming. Welcome to you. We've got James is here. We got Mark G. Got Julie. I think I mentioned Julie before. If not, got Julie. We got Chris, that running guy.
Oh, I know him.
You know him, do you? Yeah.
I've seen him.
We've got Running with Mark's here. Hi, Mark.
He's got some fantastic ultra videos. I shared them with you, didn't I? I said that's
yes.
If you want to watch them, yeah, they're really good.
We were vegging out on ultra running videos a couple of weeks before, weren't we? Catherine's here. Susie's here. Hi, Susie. Julian. Jumped. I've missed people. Ben Smith's here. John's here. Dave. Got Orange Goblin.
That's a good question.
Right. There's a question. Right, well, let's do a question then.
That question there.
If you had both had the knee leg pain during a training run, how soon would you have stopped and called it a day? That's a good question.
Yeah, I think if it was a lead up to a race, I would have stopped straight away. Simply because I would have known that there was another another fight to be had out on another course, and I would have just done the sensible thing. And the only reason really why I didn't, and people have said to me, well, maybe you should have done, and it's certainly not medically advised to do what I did at all, but it was because I was able to use the arm sleeve, support my knee, and it helped. And there was always the option of dropping out, by the way. The trouble is with that course, for those who don't know, they sort of advise you in the video beforehand from the race director that if you're going to drop out, you've got to get to an aid station if you can. Obviously, they'll come and collect you otherwise. So you're going to have to get to the next aid station anyway. And then by that point, you've kind of made a decision about whether you got there comfortably or whether it was really disabling you from getting any further. And there were people who dropped out. I didn't feel towards the end, because I really wasn't running, it wasn't causing me significant discomfort. But yeah, had it got any worse, if it'd been North Downs Way 100, for example, I wouldn't have gone any further because there simply wouldn't have been a point. But yeah, good question.
Yeah, I think with me, so I had just this real achiness, both sides of my legs, knees, and all the muscles in the upper part of the legs. Lower part of the legs were okay, upper part of the legs and knees weren't. And it was just this real achiness going on. I think if that was just a normal training run and that had sort of come on, I would have probably carried on for a little bit to see if it had eased and gone away. And obviously it wouldn't have. And then I would have just called it a day, or tried to get back or started walking or whatever to where I could have got back to home. I definitely wouldn't have pushed on because again, I would have thought it could be doing more damage to my legs had I done so. But obviously this wasn't a training run, it was a race, and it was all about the determination to get to the finish, really. I think, it's a big call if you're going to drop out of any race. I've never done it so far, but it's a big call to do so. But I think when it's a real key race, you've got to take your own personal judgment, don't you? You've got to weigh it up against, do you think you're going to cause yourself some sort of injury longer term, or do you think you can just risk it out really and get to the end, and just then have a period of recovery afterwards, which I guess is what we're both doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was about to say so I can see Mariela's question there is about salt tablets. Now, before I'd done the ultra, I watched a video by Seth James Damore, which I'm sure we all know him, and he DNF'd on a race, and I think it was a 50 miler, and part of that was down to the salt tablets. So when I watched that, and I thought, that's one thing I don't want to find myself in a situation of having to DNF because of hydration and nutrition, which we spoke about earlier. Now, the salt tablets for me, I'd had some in my bag because I planned on it being a hot day, but only probably think 7 or 8. Now, in hindsight, I think I would have benefited from having twice as many or more, because that's what helped me, I believe, to get out of the situation when I started to get cramp in my legs, just again about Box Hill. Never had cramp before in my legs during a run, started to creep in, started using the salt tablets, and that was able to kind of right itself. But then thinking about it as I got further down the course, I think, had my legs got worse and I didn't have them, I could have ended up in a little bit more trouble. So the salt tablets for sure would be something that I'd probably use more so in the future for longer runs, regardless of whether it was a hot day.
Yeah, definitely. I did also bring salt tablets, thanks to Zeph's advice as well. It was the one bit of advice I asked him about when he did the live stream with me, and he said take salt tablets because that can make a big difference, particularly in warmer weather. We didn't really get the warmth, but I thought there's no harm in taking them. It's not going to cause a problem, I don't think. So I think I only probably took 2 or 3 and just sort of spaced them out. It was more in the earlier stages just to make sure I wasn't going to run into any hydration type problems, which I don't think I did at all. So
yeah,
obviously worked, combined with everything else. So another question here from Susie: is this the hardest race you have run, guys? Well, that's an interesting question. I'll let you answer first.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to answer because in some respects, other races I've done have had elements that have been more difficult, because this is, I think, more of a day out, and there are so many different strands to it. It was definitely tough, but I think I've had harder races where the weather's been significantly bad, or even when I think back to the video that featured in your intro, the hardest snails race, that will always be a really tough night out of running, because hydration wasn't on offer. It was a really hot evening. The course was really tough, and that's still probably one of the harder races I've done. So I'd say it was a tough race. I don't necessarily think I'd use the word hard in that sense.
Yeah, again, very similar answer from me. I've had some hard races, and in terms of finishing, the Edinburgh Marathon was harder to finish because of what happened to me there, where I did get cramp in the last 10 kilometers and had to stop in two medical tents along the way, and ended up just finishing it in under 6 hours, I think it was. So for a marathon, so that was very, very hard to finish. This was very, very tough because for 40 miles, every step was hurting. Every step was hurting. So the determination required in this particular race was probably much more determination than any other race I've had. Yeah, but I'm not sure it was the hardest one to finish, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right, let's find some more questions. I'm bound to miss some here.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's only for me, I think. How are the trail flies? So the Innovate Trail Fly Ultras that I bought specifically for this race. I found them really well. Really, really good for comfort and energy return. I'll do a proper review video. Hopefully, going to record that next week and get it out soon, because I've now running them quite a lot and got quite a lot of thoughts about them. The one thing I will say is I've run in just about every terrain that you can imagine in these, and it works so well and is so grippy on every terrain except for mud. I was sliding on the mud. And the other runner that I was running with, she also had some Innovates, and I think she was getting a lot more grip from hers than I was from those. So I don't think they are a shoe designed to run in mud, but every other type of terrain they are really good in. Okay, let's
I think a
see.
few of the top people that I saw when I looked at their shoe choices, it was Hoka Speedgo, La Sportiva. I think there was an Innovate in there, but maybe something Claw. I forget the name of them now, but
the mud claws I think are very good for mud, as the name would suggest. And yeah, I just think that the trail flies are probably harder trails. They'd be really good for, and they were good on that. They went through the sand fine, and they go on the tarmac. When you go onto the tarmac, they're really good on that as well, and so cushioned. Yeah. Right, let's try and get through some more of these questions. Why did we pick this race for our first 50? So I think I picked it first, and then I told Dan about it, and pressurized him into doing it. So we both live close to parts of the course, so it is our local, well-known trail, the North Downs Way. So I'm near the Reigate part of it, and Dan's near the Guildford part of it. So it gave us that opportunity to train on the course. Lockdown prevented that a bit, but once the restrictions were lifted, we could get and travel a bit more widely. And Dan had covered all of the course in training from the start up to Reigate. I managed to get on and do recce's on all parts of the course. So I think just being the local one, the close one, having seen people out doing that race before, and knowing the reputation that Centurion Running has, it's a very good reputation for the 50-mile and 100-mile ultras that they arrange and organise. That was the main reason for choosing it. Dan, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think it was about 2 years ago. I was up at top of Newlands Corner, and the 100-miler runners were coming through, and I was due to do a park run that morning. And actually, on the way home, I stopped by park run and I set my 5K kind of PB at park run. Really inspired by what they were doing, and I thought, one day I'd love to do that. You tipped me off that the race registration sort of opening window was coming up, and I thought, yeah, why not? I'd done a 40-miler last year, or was it year before? I can't remember. Wasn't really that happy with how the race went or the result, and I thought, let's just see if I can do it. And the thing about it is, like you say, because we've got the trails local to us, it does allow you to train on them. I think if I was trying to go for something like Snowdonia or somewhere else around the country, I just simply would have been able to train on the course, especially with, unfortunately, the hindsight of it all. We had lockdown, we're able to do what we could, but if it had been further afield, I would have been turning up to a race more or less blind. So yeah, it's local, and it's got a very good reputation, and yeah, some very well-known runners have won and podiumed at Centurion events, so they've got a great reputation.
Great stuff. So I can see in the chat there's quite a lot of questions about running with music. You run with music, Dan?
No, I used to when I started running, and probably for the last 2 years, so I haven't run with music at all. I was going to take it with me. I thought about it, and in the end, I made the call not to. So I just ran with my own thoughts for the day, and that's about it for me.
So I had loads of music lined up on. I've got Spotify on my phone, so I downloaded loads of music, different albums that I'd listened to. Yeah, and I think I played one album, and that was it. It was in the early stages, and that was it. And I ran quite a way before I even put that on. I think I put it on in that bit between Newlands Corner and the long bit, really.
Yeah,
The long
hate
kind
that
of
bit.
yeah. It's a bit boring, that bit, isn't it? But
It is dull.
so that's why I put the music on for that bit. And then the album ran out, and I never put another track on. Just carried on running without it. So normally, though, I would normally run with music when I'm not in a race or anything like that. Any other race I've done, I don't think I've ever taken music with me before. So this was the first one where I had intended to listen to some music, and I ended up just listening to one album across the 12 hours, 20 minutes. So there we go. But yeah, John listens lots to music by the looks of it. Anything from Beethoven to death metal to gangster rap.
Yeah, he's got a great kind of music intro on his channel. Always gets me fired up. It's just a great guitar riff at the start.
For some more questions. I am reading your other comments, guys. I won't go through more as we'll be here all night. So Jamie asked the question about what music I listen to. There we go. Just answered it. What about ice?
I think he's talking about Torvill and Dean there. No ultra for us on the ice.
This is the trouble when we're talking and we can't follow every comment. So that's no doubt that is relevant to something that we said earlier on.
Mark's got an interesting question there about the compression calf sleeves, because I mean, a lot of people I saw they didn't have them, and I find it as fascinating the people that do as the people that don't. I've always used them. I think it's if it's not physically benefiting me, and I don't really necessarily know, I think it's a placebo, and because of that, I put them on when I go for a run, and I don't think twice about it. I would never really be certain whether it would or wouldn't have an effect, because I think the times I've run without them, I felt like I've had a bad run, and that doesn't mean I have. So I think it's probably a placebo in my mind at this point. But I don't think the guy who won had calf sleeves.
No, and yeah, as you say, a lot of people don't. I do. Ever since I got cramp in my calf that time, I've always worn them on pretty much every run. Occasionally forgetting to put them on for a shorter run, and yeah, it's had no real bad effect when I've done that. But certainly, I prefer to wear it for the longer. I just feel more comfortable in them now. So
yeah,
it's like put your socks on, put your calf sleeves on. But there we go. I think it's personal preference, really, isn't it? Right. So Chris is saying, would you guys do another ultra?
Yeah, I think for me, I've come to enjoy the 50k is quite a nice distance. I think if you can find a nice trail somewhere new, like some of those Jurassic Coast ultras that are 50k or so, Something like that'd be really interesting for me. And it's quite funny when you think about it, that whilst there was a time where marathons seemed to be such a long way off as a distance when you begin running, and then they become part of your training, you run the distance of a marathon as just a training run. So for me, I don't fear doing another ultra. I think it'll be a while before I went for something as significant as a 50 mile, just because the training involved and the commitment you have to give to it. But certainly I wouldn't shy away from another 50k without too much thought and too much training to go into. I think I could handle that distance quite comfortably.
Yeah, I think the same for myself, really. I think I'd like to do a 50k race now. I think I probably feel a bit more comfortable over that distance. I don't want to go above 50 miles. I think when you start going to 100k and 100 miles, you know, you're running through the dark. 100 miles, you're obviously running through the night. At the moment, I don't have that desire. I think someone else asked a question somewhere about would we do the North Downs Way 50 again. I certainly would like to probably do that again sometime. And I guess, you know, again, it depends where it all fits into other schedules, what other races and stuff we might be planning. One of the reasons why I chose to do the North Downs Way 50 and to do an ultra race of that sort of distance at this particular time was really due to the whole pandemic and the fact that, you know, all the road races were being cancelled. So I thought, well, the best chance of getting out there is to do a trail race. And, you know, there were some trail races that happened during last year where the road races didn't. So, you know, fortunately, road races have started up again now. But, you know, I think there's more chance for them to put on an ultra race in the pandemic. It was very, very, very safe in terms of the distancing and the way they had the aid stations set out and all of that. So, yeah. But 50k sounds quite good now. It doesn't sound too far, strangely enough. Right. This is an interesting one. Do you think the leg soreness could be due to the new trainers? No, I personally don't. I ran 2 quite long distance runs in training beforehand, including the 50k training run, and I didn't get any problem like this on the 50k training run. I've thought about this a lot because I do think it's strange. The thing that is my main theory at the moment, and this might not be right, obviously, but my main theory for all the leg achiness going on is that, you know, I had that problem with the left calf 2 weeks before. I then didn't do any running at all until race day. Now, normally, if you had a 2-week gap like that, you would ease into your running, wouldn't you? And obviously, I didn't ease into it. I went out to do 50 miles, but I started to get this achiness happening after 10 miles. And that could just be my body. You know, if I'd have gone out and done 5 miles for the first run, and then a few days later gone and up that to a half marathon distance or more or whatever, you know, that might have eased into it a bit more easily. I think that was probably it. I think it was just the kind of having a 2-week break from running and then perhaps a little bit of a shock to the body and to the muscles that during those 10 miles, it meant that those muscles were going to ache and they didn't stop aching for the next 40 afterwards. That's my theory anyway. Right. No, it's all jumping around in the comments. If you see anything, Dan, let me know in terms of questions.
We've got a question here. Rednecks Gaming saying, what's next for your running goals?
Okay.
I think you've got a race lined up, haven't you?
So I'm doing the Hardest Snails in June. That's a race that both Dan and I did, and it also featured in the intro of this video. That's in June. They're actually, I think they did one the other night. It's an evening one. I think they did it
last
Wednesday
night, I think.
evening. Yeah. So that is, as we both know, it's a nice race. Happens around Guildford. Part of it's on the North Downs Way. finally found the comment. So yeah, that's my next one. That's a kind of go out, enjoy it type of run. I've got another couple of things that I'm planning to do over the summer before marathon training really kicks in. I'm doing, for anyone that doesn't know, I'm doing the Manchester Marathon, the one that was postponed from last year, hopefully now happening in October. So I will be putting a training plan together for that. I haven't quite worked out yet when that is going to start. Probably if I was going to do 16 weeks of training, it's probably going to start quite soon. But I'm probably going to go for a shorter training block than the normal sort of 16 weeks that I do for marathon training, just because of the whole base that's been built up during this ultra marathon training. Yeah, there's a couple of other things I want to try and get in terms of running before then. What about you, Dan, in terms of your next running goals?
Yeah, I don't have any races booked. I'd like to do a little bit of speed work. I want to just try and have a bit of fun with the runs. With life and how things are progressing for me at the moment, I'm going to be quite busy with family. So I just want to, I think, go out and do shorter, faster sessions if I can. And also with people training, I know that Ben and Chris, who are training for London Marathon, I think the same with you. I'd like to be out and supporting people on their journeys. I wouldn't mind just jumping into somebody's training run, having a bit of fun. I've got no goals, no real plans. If I can work on a bit of speed, that's excellent. But it's just zero pressure. This was the big build up to this event. And now I just feel like I can sort of sit back a little bit, enjoy the summer.
Yeah.
And when I'm fully back up and running again, literally, I can head back out there and just tick along, just keep the body moving.
Easy for a while. Why not? Interesting comment there from Catherine. So Catherine does not like to go out and do course recce's at all. Likes it all to be a big surprise on the race day.
Wow. Well, that's it. Like I said, it was. I think I said it in my video. I might have said it to a couple of people on the course. Or anything from this part onwards is going to be a little bit of a mystery to me. Little did I know, though, that mystery wasn't as much fun as I hoped. So yeah, I think it was good. Like, I think in hindsight, knowing the course probably would have done me some sort of mental damage on the day, and I would have been a bit more concerned about how I was going to tackle the final part of it. But it is good. I found in training runs to set up a course on Garmin. I use a Garmin watch. Set it up, send it to your watch, and then head out. That's been something that I've actually come to really enjoy.
Yeah, good point. So Mariella's doing the Manchester Marathon as well.
Nice.
Going to be her first marathon, so that's good.
So what's your plan there, Chris? Are you going to go for a PB, or just going to just to run it?
I'm gonna go for it. Yeah, I'm gonna. So I don't know if people remember, but on the treadmill, I have gone faster than my PB outdoors during the ultramarathon training. So I know that, I should be with some proper training, I should be able to knock a bit more time off of that. So the idea would be, and I've set this goal ever since my first marathon and haven't achieved it yet, but for this one, I'm going to try and go under 3 hours 45 minutes. So that's the goal, and we shall see. But more importantly, I want to approach it a little bit differently. I think I've sort of seen the benefit that volume of running does. So I've had more focus on speed work in marathon training previously. I think I'll still have a bit of that probably built into the plan, but a lot of it is going to be similar to the way I approach the ultra marathon. It's that just the volume, the longer runs, building some marathon pace into those longer runs, perhaps that sort of approach, rather than focusing too much on too much speed into a marathon training block, I think.
Yeah, and I think with your new knowledge of some of the local trails to you, it's just going to benefit you to head out and do 2 hours up and down the hills and having a bit of fun. You might not cover the same distance, but you just know what the benefit is.
Yeah, and that route that I used to do on a Friday, during this training block. Every Friday morning's the day I don't have to do the school run, so it means I can get up really early, get out on those trails, and just get in quite a lot of elevation. I'm going to carry that forward. Why not? I think it can only do good to strengthen your legs, even if you're actually going to be racing on a road and the road's going to be pretty much flat. But yeah, that's the plan anyway. We shall see how that all pans out. I'll have to actually work out though when I'm actually going to start all of that, because I don't want to leave it too late.
You've got Michael in the chat there. He's just made a comment, and he did the ultra with us as well.
Yes.
Forgive me if I might be mistaken, but I thought he may have said that he had gone out for the sports massage the other day. I hope I'm right with that. See, I didn't do that either. I didn't put myself in for a massage. I thought about it. I contemplated it. Those things, I don't know. Maybe that was the better move to have gone with the sports massage, to do a bit of stretching, to do a bit of yoga. I don't know. Might have dropped the ball on that slightly.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I'm the same. I was thinking of doing a sports massage. I was almost thinking of doing a sports massage during that 2-week period beforehand when I had that calf issue, and then I decided actually let's not even do anything with the car, leave it alone, and perhaps then invest in a sports massage afterwards. But I think now I'm not going to do that either. I'm probably just going to leave it be, for another week or so. Go out for that first run, see what it's like. If it's still feeling achy after that, then perhaps I will rethink. Ben's going to give you a sports massage, Dan.
Right. Okay. I don't even want to say. I hope it's free, because.
Right. If we miss it, I'm used to this, aren't I? Picking out the comments.
You've got Julie as well, by the way. Julie's joining you for Manchester Marathon also. So there's 3 of you doing Manchester, which is cool.
That's very good. Here we go. Yeah, so I will do a whole Manchester Marathon training series once I actually work out when I'm going to start it.
Can I ask you a question, Chris?
You can ask me a question.
YouTube question. Separate to the ultra, did you feel that when you were doing documenting this training journey, your video style has changed slightly to adapt to how you were doing your videos? Because I used to do individual runs, just random runs, uploading sort of as and when I did them. But I think we both went for more of a weekly roundup style. And of course, throughout this process, you'd sort of built your little creation there behind you and the treadmill. So when you're documenting going forward, are you going to carry on with that same approach, or are you going to go back to maybe more individual based runs, a long run video at the weekend, perhaps?
Yeah. So I've never really done that individual run by run type of videos on my channel, because I just don't feel I get enough time to do that. So I've always tried to be consistent. So, and I've always tried to upload a video on a Monday morning, which is a weekly kind of roundup of the running. Now, sometimes that might just be me out on a long run, showing a bit of the run, talking away to the camera, and recapping all of the runs that I've done during the week. And I did some of that during the ultramarathon training as well. And then also during the ultramarathon training, I did kind of have the camera with me every single day that I was running, and just recorded a bit of that run and then compiled it all together into a week's long video, essentially, capturing just about every run. So some weeks that doesn't work, because some weeks I just don't get some weeks I just want to go out and not take the camera, to be honest, or some of the days. So it does then tend to be I'm just filming 1 or 2 runs and then making an entire video, still talking about what's happened earlier on in the week, but not actually showing it for every single run. I think it's going to be probably turn into a combination of the both again. So probably taking forward a similar approach to what I've done for the ultramarathon training, taking that forward into the Manchester Marathon training series as well. Yeah, that's the current view anyway. I think prior to kicking that all off, as I say, I've got some ideas of some kind of one-off challenges that I am hopefully going to, firstly, hopefully going to do, and secondly, hopefully going to then make a video about them, and then, you know, put them out instead of the normal sort of training series, because I always find when you're not training for anything, doing a weekly training vlog is not so interesting. You know, it's much more interesting to have a
Yeah.
a goal for something, you know. So that people can follow along and follow the journey through the training block. I got to admit that when I started this off, I was thinking 20 weeks, are people going to really want to follow 20 weeks worth of training? You know, that's longer than I've ever done a marathon training series for. That's been 16 weeks. And even those feel like quite lengthy for people to kind of follow along all the way through. But every week, you know, the views went up. So that was, you know, a positive thing. People were in it for the journey, which is brilliant. So again, thank you to everyone that is out there that was doing that. Okay. Does that answer your question, Dan?
It does, yeah. No, I've not really approached a video sort of series like that before. So I found that doing the weekly roundup was actually, I found it easier to manage from the back end.
Yeah.
With the editing, with putting it together, and because I was doing enough runs to justify having a video like that, it really worked out well for me. But I hadn't done it before because most of my runs were just dipping in and out.
There's a video idea for you, Dan.
Yeah, I know. It's an interesting idea, but I don't think anybody wants a point of view footage of that. So that'd be for an altogether different website.
Chris is asking, have either of us done the sheer 42K? He's got it in August.
No,
and I've not heard of it. So
I have heard of it, but
okay.
I haven't.
It's probably nearer you, isn't it, than me?
It is, yes. So it's not really too far away from sort of, I suppose, the Guildford location, from St Martha's, not too far. I'm not sure, north, I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, intriguing. Don't know much about it, might look into it. Again, just depends on how life is going.
So Matthew is asking, any thoughts on marathons races abroad this year?
I don't think leaving British shores is something that's probably going to be as straightforward. I always wanted to do the Palmer Marathon, because that's just a hop away on the plane. I always wanted to do that. It looked sort of flat and fast and warm. That was the only one that ever really struck me as being a bit of a draw for a marathon. And then in terms of if it was an ultra race, then of course you've got some of the big ones that would be a bit of a dream to run. But nothing this year, for sure. Nothing this year for me.
No, similarly, I certainly this year, I think I've got nothing planned, and I'm not just going abroad at the moment. I'm not going to plan anything, and I've got so many flights that had been booked to various places that have then had to be rebooked and rebooked and rebooked. I don't know whether I'm coming or going, to be honest, in terms of flights. So yeah, maybe another year. Certainly would like to do an international marathon at some stage, but not at the moment. So David's saying he had a place at Manchester, but decided to go for Chester the week earlier instead, and then Manchester will be his backup. Okay,
that's cool.
So Heather is saying that if she survives her first marathon, she's going to think about training for a 50K. And why not? You can do a marathon, you can probably do a 50K.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. Because I think sometimes the 50K races, different type of race, there is some allowance for the walking. And so the approach to it, I find, is actually more comfortable than a flat out marathon, which is point to point, go as hard as you can, pacing it, but basically as hard as you can until you get to the end. 50K and beyond, it's a different approach, and a lot more enjoyable. I found any of the ultras I've done, whether it's training or in a race, have been far more enjoyable than in my marathons. Might be controversial there, but
Matthew's just saying that finding both our videos very inspiring. Thank you very much, Matthew.
Thanks, Matthew. Appreciate you taking time to watch.
Similarly with Catherine. Thanks, Catherine. Right, I'm just trying to look for questions. But this is, jumping about. Right, here we go. Not a question, but Michael's saying, going to really miss the big goal of the North Downs Way.
Yeah.
So guess going to have to enter some more ultras. Hope you both do too. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's that thing, isn't it? When you've reached one big goal in your running, you kind of go, well, what's next? What's next? I mean, for me, I've got something planned this time, but often I don't. It's often kind of, what am I going to do now? Definitely worth booking something up, whatever it is, whatever takes your fancy on that, I think, because you always want to have some sort of goal to aim for and keep you motivated for. So Kevin is suggesting that Ben considers the Comrades Marathon.
Oh,
there we go.
Yeah, well, I think you find there's a few running companies that do marathons, the Thames Meander being one of them, that gets you points to entry into that marathon.
Okay. Yeah.
So I like Scott's question there.
Did we get some points for UTMB?
We did. That's it. Pack your bags. We're in. Get some trekking poles. Do you
know how many points we got and how many you need? How many more 50 miles or 100 miles?
I think we were 1 point shy. We need to enter again to get the extra point. Yeah, so Scott's question there, to jump ahead, he says he's doing his first 53k in 4 weeks, like to a local 40 miles 12 weeks later. Well, I would, if it was me, I'd be thinking that the 53k in some respects is training. It's a training run for the 40 miler. You'd probably be doing a 50k 3-4 weeks out for the 40 miler, I would imagine anyway. So if I was then doing a training block for that 40 miler, I'd stick a 50k in, a month out. So I think that's a good confidence booster. If you can get to 31 miles, well, actually 53k is more like probably 33 miles.
Yeah,
get that. Then
the 40 miles 12 weeks later, so he's got plenty of time between the 53k and the 40k. Definitely doable. Definitely doable. So Richard's asking, what's your advice on do's and don'ts in marathon training and race day, please? Do's and don'ts. Nothing new on race day. the normal one. Don't go off too fast.
I think
definitely enjoy it.
You've got to, if you're taking any sort of gels or hydration that's different to what's on offer, you've got to test it. Have to test it. If you know ahead of time what the race is going to offer you, whatever gel it might be, you might choose to train with that gel ahead of it, so that you know you don't have to take as much on the day, but don't be reliant on what's going to be on the table. And with the long runs, do them much slower than you think you need to do them. Really super easy, super comfortable. And even though it feels very strange to do that, the benefits are just evident on race day. The people, I think, who have done those real comfortable, slow, long runs, got the endurance, the base, and the comfort level, especially past 20-mile distance.
Indeed. So Ben's saying nothing new on race day except for a new trail vest on a 50 miler. As I always say, do as I say, not as I do. But fortunately, the trail vest worked out fine. I had no problems with it at all.
It looked excellent.
I felt a little bit of rubbing where they put the tracker. So we had these little boxes essentially that was the tracker that you could And thanks to everyone that was tracking us. I don't know about you, Dan, but so many people commented on my video
Yeah.
saying, "I was tracking you through the day." And just knowing that as we were running really did help to motivate. I was at the point, where things were pretty tough out there, and I was thinking, I'm just going from aid station to aid station, and I'll see how far I get. At this point, I'm not really confident that I'm gonna get there, but I'll just keep going from aid station to aid station. And uh, as I was doing that, um, I completely lost the trail of thought now what I was going to say.
Well, I think we knew
What
ahead
were
of
you
time
saying?
that people knew what our numbers were, and
That's it.
you get a few DMs, and I think the handful of times I pulled out my phone during the day, either just to kind of check in, or I tried to do a little bit of Instagram stories. But when you see that kind of flick come up of the DMs notifications, it was really reassuring. Equally, it gives you some kind of accountability. You need to appreciate that people are spending their time watching you, and not that you owe anything to anybody in particular, but when people are backing you, and for the most part they're strangers, that just means a lot, and it's a great boost to feel like other people are there with you when ultimately this
Yeah.
can be quite a lonely day.
Yeah. And at that point where I was thinking, am I going to have to stop at some point along this? I was thinking to myself, there are lots of people checking that tracker throughout the day. If I stop, they're all going to see that I've stopped. I don't want to be the person that stopped. And so it is amazing. There was a few different things that helped motivate me through what was a really tough run. And that was definitely one of them. But that tracker, as I was saying, that tracker was they strap it, they kind of tape it to the strap of your running vest, and yeah, it was a little bit uncomfortable, I've got to say. It didn't cause any blister or anything, and I guess it was just a case of getting used to it. But early on, I was thinking, "Oh, is that going to be a problem?" Um, yeah, but other than that, the trail vest worked really well. Right. Um, Here's another question from Claire. How does someone change their mindset to complete an ultra? For example, do you always walk the hills? Yeah. Well, that was the approach we both took, I think, Dan, wasn't it? Walk
I,
the hills,
I walked
just to
every
conserve
hill,
energy.
every single ascent, even the ones in my training runs that I knew that I would normally jog up. I walk them all. And I think in terms of the mindset, you need to be okay and comfortable in your mind that when you enter this race, your aim is to complete it, and you've got every faith that you'll do that. I think going on a race day with the feeling that you're going to not complete it is probably the quickest way to achieve that. So yeah, it's just being a positive person, realizing that you've done the training, you've put the work in, and giving yourselves a little bit of credit for what you're about to do. The ultra, I think, well, both of our examples are that we broke, but mentally we were strong until the end, and that's what got us over the line. If it was just down to physical, we both would have probably checked out by halfway, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. Michael's saying 2 buffs was great Chris tip. 2 buffs, was that the
You
fact
said
that I was
about,
wearing one
yeah,
around here and one on there?
and you also said about taking a separate one in case one got a bit sweaty
Oh,
and you could
yeah,
swap
yeah,
one
that's
out.
right.
I
That's
had
right.
two as
Well, I had
well.
a spare of everything, didn't I, in my pack, if you
Yeah,
saw that video?
yeah, you were
I could
going
have put the kitchen
away for the
sink in there, I
weekend.
think.
I mean, all these little bags. You had the space for it, and you were just like, it's a generation game. This one's going in. This
Well,
one's going in. This is
and the
going in.
only thing I took out of the back of the pack was the tailwinds. So I split the tailwinds. I had some of them up front initially, and when I got through those, I took the backpack off. I think I took it off at Dorking, took it off there, got the rest of the tailwind out, and didn't use anything from the back at all after that. So that's a lesson learned. I wouldn't take as much, I don't think, again. I think I took way too many gels. I think if I was only fueling on gels, I took the right number. But because I was fueling on various things, um, I didn't need to take as many gels as I took. And I don't know about you, but my appetite just went off gels completely by about halfway stage and switched to other solid food and
Yeah.
other stuff like that.
I went solid food first and then switched to gels. But like you, I took too many. Ended up bringing loads home, which is fine. You know, you can use them for future running. It's not a big deal. But I definitely took quite a lot.
So Stuart was tracking us. So thanks, Stuart, for that. I was tracking Dan as I was driving down or getting my lift down to Farnham. I was like, "Hey, Dan's just walking from the pleasure centre to the start line."
Yeah, that was mad. And during the day, I had a few moments of those big hill climbs. It was actually quite a good distraction. I found you open my phone and I was tracking you, seeing where you were at. And that was also a time when I decided I wasn't going to be calling people, like calling family, to just do a check-in unless I was on a part of the course that I needed to be distracted by. Because when you're talking to somebody, that one foot in front of the other, and I was climbing, often quick phone call so I can do my check-in. Then it seemed to work quite well. Took the mind off it.
The Rednacks Gaming, I think saw me filming whilst at Reigate Hill, but was a bit nervous to say hello. Don't never be nervous to say hello.
You're a YouTube celebrity. That's the effect you have on people.
I was recognised at the Reigate Hill aid station, so yeah, thank you very much to the lady at Reigate Hill aid station who
Yeah, I was
shouted
recognised
out,
a
"Here
few
we are
times.
running."
A few
And
people.
I was just going to say, she shouted out, "Here we are running," and I said, "I'm not running, I'm walking today."
What about,
yeah.
by the way, that Reigate aid station? What's the deal? They put it over the hill to approach
little
it.
hump.
And I said, we put that here. They keep on the flat. Now over the hill we went.
Yeah. Mariella was tracking us.
Thank you.
So Stuart's saying that the Salomon vest has a little pocket that the tracker fits in nicely. I saw that on someone else's vest. I don't know if it was Salomon or something else, but yeah, it had a good pocket. My vest did have some pockets up there. I'm not sure they were quite big enough to put the tracker in. The tracker was quite chunky.
Yeah, it was quite big. Again, I had a pocket at the front, and he just said, "You can put it there if you want to. Do you have anything else in there?" I said, "Just a GoPro battery," and he said, "Well, perhaps it's more advisable to have it on the top." And the tracking, from what I could gather from people that tracked us, it was really pretty accurate. Because when I did my wrong turn, funnily enough, my mum had logged on at that time, and she had texted me to say you'd gone off course, and I didn't get a text message till later. So I thought, "What are you talking about? I'm not off course." But it was clearly that accurate that she had seen me drift the completely wrong way.
Yes. Ben saying you were moonwalking up the hills.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have been that guy who was breezing past people, but it certainly wasn't the case.
So Catherine's saying that her first 70k was very little elevation, but still advised to walk the inclines. So yeah, I think that is a good, unless you're one of the elites. I'm assuming that the guys that come right up the front probably don't walk some of the hills at least, because they're coming in phenomenal times. But I don't know, maybe they do.
Yeah, I'd be intrigued to know some of these ultra runners you see from abroad, some of the big names. I'd be really interested to see what they could do on a course like the North Downs Way, because presumably the elevation just doesn't compare to what they're used to doing. And I'm sure they could probably tackle it in a phenomenal time. It's just fascinating to me. It's really, really fascinating.
Stuart had 10 gels and took one of them. And you just think the weight of 10 gels is actually is a fair weight, that. So yeah. I think definitely we probably all take too many gels with us. Oh, let's see what this one is. So Richard's saying, not the best question and laugh out loud, but how did you guys manage toilet stops, taking in all the food and fluids? Okay, so that's an interesting point about toilet. The only two aid stations that had toilets was, I think I'm right in saying, Newlands Corner and Reigate Hill, and that's only because there's like public cafes there. So the public cafes had the toilets. None of the aid stations had any toilets. So if you needed the toilet, you know where you had to go. There
into
were
the
plenty of
woods.
trees en route.
But also, I think sometimes your body reacts in a way that's different to normal day-to-day life. You go and drink a litre of water now, and you might find yourself needing to go in a period of time. During a run like that, I think there's an element of the body kind of not shutting down as such, but prioritizing different parts of the body to utilize. And you don't necessarily need to go, even though you are taking that fluid on board, plus also you're kind of sweating it out. It's a strange thing. The body does odd things, but yeah, like Chris said, there's only 2 places you could actually officially go to the toilet.
So Claire's asking, in hindsight, did I pack too much? Absolutely, yeah, absolutely packed too much. I would definitely pack less if I was doing it again. But that's, it's your first one, isn't it? I'd prefer to pack too much than have left something out that I would have gone afterwards. I really wish I had that. So yeah, I think another time, a lot of the stuff I put in the back of the pack wasn't required, and too many gels. I think most of the sort of snack type stuff I ate, although I did have quite a few flapjacks in there, I didn't eat all of them. The aid stations had a good selection of stuff, and I think although they sort of advised to use the aid station to top up what you brought with you and to bring enough with you, the aid stations were pretty well stocked. As long as you got to see what they were going to contain as well. They sent a list out, so as long as you liked and could eat some of that stuff, I think you're always going to be okay, really.
And I think the type of runners that we were never going to be up at the front, which means we had to have a certain amount on us, because we could have been, well, I was by myself pretty much all the day, but you could have found yourself totally stuck in the woods, and you would have needed more food, more about you, in order to get to the next aid station, plus mandatory kit. Now, I wasn't checked during the day. They were doing random checks at aid stations. At that point, you could argue, well, I wasn't checked. I didn't need to take anything with me. I could have just, crossed my fingers and hoped. But there was an element of that pack that was already full of things that we didn't use at all, like a head torch, for example. They weigh something, don't they? A head torch, and mine was just in my bag all day.
Yeah, but they were checking. So I saw checks taking place. Yeah, so it's not worth the risk at all, really. Because I think if you didn't have any mandatory kit, it was an hour penalty on your time per item that you didn't have. So for me, that would have been the difference between finishing and not finishing.
You would have gone home without a medal.
Yeah, I would have gone home without a medal with an hour penalty. So Mark saying, I think they let Chris bring a donkey for the extra luggage in the end. I think if we could have had donkeys, we could have got on them and got a lift up the hill.
Yeah.
Out of 10, how was the hot dog at the end? Definitely 10 out of 10 for the hot dog.
At the time, it's just one of those things. This is the best thing. I think a little bit of ketchup would have been helpful. It was a little dry. If I was to be critical.
Did you not have ketchup?
Was there not there? Was there some there?
Yeah, there were little sachets of ketchup when I was there.
Oh, are you kidding me? Oh well, yeah. I mean, it was clearly my error then. I was in such a daze. Didn't realise there was ketchup there. I feel cheating now. I have to go back and do it again.
But it was a really nice tasting hot dog. After it could have tasted, however it tasted, it was nice tasting. But yeah, it was good. Yeah.
I saw some spring rolls, veggie spring rolls, and I thought, I'm not sure if my experience of eating a Chinese is never that pleasant. The following day, I didn't think I really wanted to do it on a run.
I had one. I had a spring roll, but it's just one of those things. It was probably fine, but it just didn't go down well with my appetite at that point. So, you know, I was trying different things at the aid stations.
Get your
That was
money's
the only,
worth.
yeah,
You should have filled your bag. You could have got jelly babies. You could have done a week's shopping. Would they have pork pies, Scotch eggs?
So Michael's saying the Fast Boys ate all the goo chocolate gels, so he had to suffer with Lyme. Oh no. See, I've never had goo gels, but they had, for anyone that was wondering what we're talking about, they had the goo gels at the aid stations, so you could have gone without any gels at all of your own if you were going to take goo gels. But I wasn't going to take that risk. I've never tried goo gels, so yeah. So Heather's going to bring the TV with her when she runs the first ultra.
You just need a little iPad. That's what you need.
Yeah, so that's very sad what happened in China. Very, very sad. I think they just got caught with a massive storm or something, didn't they?
But this thing about weather, isn't it? We were having I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't compare, obviously, but our day was pretty fine for weather. Then suddenly, so this little hailstone, little storm, heavy rain for 10 minutes. Obviously, it doesn't compare, but the weather can just change in an instant and just catch you off guard. By the time I got a rain jacket out of my pack and got it on, I only had about 3 minutes in it, but that was enough to have got me soaked. I was under a tree, but I was already wet. Yeah, it's horrific what happened out
there. They didn't have lobster, Ben. Sorry. I think that was one of the items they did not have at the aid station. If they did, it was all gone by the time I got there. And they didn't have champagne at the aid stations either.
No, none of that.
And I definitely did not have a bottle of ketchup in my vest. Okay. We're starting to get silly now, guys. Guys, any more questions? We've been rattling on here, haven't we, for a good while.
There we go.
But thanks everyone for thank you everyone for watching. It was a fun way to do this. Just to recap, get both of us on in the one video, and yes. So Stuart's saying, what about champagne at Denby's? I suppose you could have taken a diversion and gone into Denby's and got some wine. There is actually an event that takes place. It's in the autumn. Baracus Marathon, I'm going to say it's called. It's centered around Denby's and it goes out on the trails around there. And I think you can do a half marathon or a marathon. And they basically have aid stations or water tables or whatever you want to call them along the route. And at each one, they have wine, they have cheese and biscuits. So you're running between these different ones, and you get to try all that out as well. So there you go. I've never done it. I might try and do it one year. Yeah. Right. I think we should probably wrap things up. But guys, thanks again for watching. So I'm sure we'll both be back with videos. So don't worry about that over the coming weeks. I've got some time off work next week. So
have I.
Well, there we go. You see, that would have been ideal this week, wouldn't it? Really?
I know it would have been great.
Recover properly, but yeah. So next week I'm hoping to make a few videos and get them out, and we'll both get back to running slowly, no doubt. So Dan, thank you very much for coming on the channel again and sharing your experiences of the whole event. It's been really good fun having a chat, and everyone's questions. You guys are great, particularly for supporting us both on the day.
Thank you so much.
And I think any last words from you, Dan?
No, just again, thank you so much for your continued support. It really means a huge amount. Just blown away by the response certainly for both our videos, you know, you go through that journey on the day, you try and put together something that reflects the experience you had. And yeah, the community has just been phenomenal. So for me, can't thank everybody enough for everything you've done. And yeah, it's a real good boost to see those comments.
Great stuff. Okay. Thanks very much, everyone. Goodbye.